The sun hung low in the sky, casting elongated shadows across the overgrown grass that surrounded the abandoned house. It was a relic of a time long past, its once vibrant paint now faded and peeling like dying skin. My friends, Jake and Lisa, stood beside me, their faces a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The air was thick with the smell of damp wood and decay, a scent that clung to the back of my throat as we approached the rotting wooden door. "Are you sure about this?" Lisa asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Of course, it's just an old house," Jake replied, attempting to sound brave, but the quiver in his voice betrayed him. I pushed the door open, the hinges creaking like the moans of a long-forgotten beast. The darkness within beckoned us like a siren's call, promising secrets long buried beneath layers of dust and neglect. As we stepped over the threshold, a chill ran down my spine. The interior was a warped reflection of its former glory. The walls were adorned with peeling floral wallpaper, faded and stained, as if the house had wept for years. I felt an overwhelming sense of being watched, an invisible gaze that lingered in the corners of the room. "Let's split up," I suggested, trying to mask my own unease. "We'll find more this way." "Are you insane?" Lisa shot back, her eyes wide. "What if something happens?" "Nothing will happen, just a bunch of old stuff," I insisted, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I could see the flicker of fear in her eyes, but also a spark of curiosity. "Fine," Jake said, glancing around nervously. "We'll meet back here in 30 minutes. I wandered deeper into the house, the floorboards creaking ominously beneath my weight. Dust motes danced in the faint light that seeped through cracked windows, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had crossed a threshold into something far darker than mere decay. The first room I entered was a parlor, its furniture draped in white sheets like corpses awaiting burial. I pulled one sheet back, revealing a tattered armchair, its upholstery frayed and stained. Suddenly, a soft thud echoed from the upper floor, causing my heart to race in my chest. "Jake!" I called out, my voice barely a whisper. No response, just the sound of silence, heavy and oppressive. I made my way up the staircase, each step a reluctant surrender to the darkness that awaited me. The air grew colder, wrapping around me like a shroud. I reached the landing, where a long corridor stretched out before me, doors lining each side like gaping mouths. A door at the end of the hallway caught my attention, slightly ajar. I approached it cautiously, peering inside to find a dimly lit room. The walls were covered in strange symbols, scrawled with a frantic energy that made my skin crawl. In the center of the room, a dusty mirror stood, its surface clouded with grime. I stepped closer, and as I did, a cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing the flickering light. I stumbled backward, heart pounding, and in that moment, I felt it, the unmistakable sensation of breath against my neck. I whipped around, but no one was there. "Get a grip," I muttered to myself, but the unease settled deep in my gut. I turned back to the mirror, and through the thick layer of filth, I caught a glimpse of a figure standing behind me. My blood ran cold as I spun around again, but there was only darkness. "Just a trick of the light," I whispered, forcing myself to breathe. I turned back to the mirror, and this time, the figure was clearer. A girl, her face twisted in anguish, her mouth opening in a silent scream. My heart raced as I stumbled backward, crashing into the wall behind me. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, trapping me in the room. I pounded on the door, panic rising within me. "Jake! Lisa!" My voice echoed, swallowed by the darkness. Chapter 2. The walls seemed to close in around me, the air thick with a sense of impending doom. I stumbled toward the mirror, drawn by an unseen force. The girl's face twisted in agony, eyes pleading, as if she were trying to communicate something urgent. "What do you want?" I cried, desperation creeping into my voice. In response, the mirror began to shimmer, the surface rippling like water. I reached out, fingers brushing against the glass, and in an instant, the reflection morphed. I saw flashes of a family, happy moments captured in time, laughter, love, and then darkness. Blood, so much blood. A violent scene unfolded, a massacre that left nothing but despair in its wake. I recoiled, horror flooding my senses. The girl's scream echoed in my mind, a haunting melody of sorrow and loss. "Stop," I shouted. But the visions only grew stronger, pulling me deeper into their twisted narrative. I was no longer just an observer, I was part of it. I felt their pain, their fear, the terror of being trapped in a nightmare with no escape. Suddenly, the door burst open and Jake stumbled in, his face pale. "What the hell is going on?" "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice shaking. "The girl. She needs help." "Are you losing it?" Jake exclaimed, glancing around the room. "There's no one here." But before I could respond, Lisa appeared in the doorway, eyes wide with fear. "I heard screaming. What's happening?" "We need to get out of here," I insisted, but as I turned back to the mirror, the girl's face was replaced by something far more sinister. A grotesque visage with hollow eyes and a smile that stretched unnaturally across its face. "Get away from it," Jake yelled, grabbing my arm and pulling me back. I struggled against him, desperate to find the girl within the horror. "You don't understand. She needs us." In that moment, the mirror shattered, glass exploding outward like a shower of deadly stars. I felt a sharp pain as a shard sliced across my cheek, warm blood trickling down my skin. "Run!" Lisa screamed, and we bolted down the hallway, the sound of our footsteps echoing through the empty house. We stumbled into the parlor, but everything felt different now, darker, more menacing. The walls seemed to pulse as if alive, the house itself hungry for our fear. "We need to find a way out," I cried, panic rising as I glanced back at the hallway, half expecting the girl to emerge. "Where's the front door?" Jake shouted, his voice laced with terror. "It was right here," I replied, but as I turned I realized the entrance had vanished, replaced by a solid wall. "No, no, no, this can't be happening." The house began to groan, a deep rumble that resonated through the floorboards. Shadows writhed along the walls, twisting and contorting as if they were alive. "What is this place?" Lisa whimpered, clutching her arms around herself. "We're trapped," Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We need to find another way." As we stumbled through the parlor, I caught sight of a door in the corner, hidden behind a tattered curtain. "This way!" I shouted, leading the charge as we rushed over. I threw the door open, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. "No way," Lisa said, shaking her head. "We can't go down there." "But it's our only option," I insisted, glancing back at the encroaching shadows. "We have to try." Reluctantly, we descended the staircase, the air growing colder with each step. The darkness enveloped us, the only sound our ragged breaths and the creaking wood beneath our feet. At the bottom of the stairs, we found ourselves in a small, musty cellar. The walls were lined with jars filled with dark, murky substances, and a sense of dread settled in my stomach. I could feel the presence of something watching us from the shadows. "What is this place?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," I replied, my pulse quickening. "But we need to find a way out." As we searched the cellar, I felt a cold hand grip my ankle. I screamed, stumbling backward, and the darkness seemed to come alive around us. "Get it off! Get it off!" I yelled, flailing as I tried to shake free. "Run!" Lisa screamed. But the shadows were closing in, wrapping around us like a suffocating blanket. Chapter 3. The darkness pressed in, thick and suffocating. I could barely see as I fought against the grip that held me. The cold fingers tightened around my ankle, pulling me down into the abyss. "Help!" I cried, desperation flooding my voice. But the more I struggled, the tighter the grip became. "Hold on!" Jake shouted, reaching for me, but I could see the fear in his eyes. "We'll get you out." "Just go!" I yelled, tears streaming down my cheeks. "Save yourselves!" I felt myself being dragged backward, the shadows whispering promises of despair and hopelessness. I could hear Lisa sobbing, her voice a haunting echo as she clung to Jake. "Please," I begged, my voice breaking, "don't leave me." But the darkness was relentless, and as I was pulled further into its depths, I felt my strength waning. I could see the outlines of Jake and Lisa fading away, their faces twisted in fear as they retreated into the light. "Don't look back," Jake shouted, but it was too late. I felt the cold grip of the shadows tightening around my throat, suffocating me. In that moment, I realized the truth of this house. It wasn't just a place of decay. It was a predator, feeding on fear and despair. I was nothing more than a meal, a fleeting moment of terror to be devoured in its dark embrace. "Let me go," I screamed, but my voice was swallowed by the darkness. I felt myself being dragged down into the void. As the last remnants of light faded away, I saw the girl's face once more, her eyes filled with anguish. She reached out to me, her mouth moving in silent desperation, but I could no longer hear her. The darkness enveloped me, and I understood that I had become a part of the house, another lost soul trapped within its walls. Hours later, Jake and Lisa emerged from the house, gasping for air as they stumbled into the sunlight. They looked back at the looming structure, a sense of dread creeping into their hearts. "Where's she?" Lisa asked, tears streaming down her face. Jake shook his head, eyes wide with disbelief. "We have to call for help," he said, but deep down, they both knew it was too late. The house had claimed another victim, and its hunger would never be sated. As they walked away, the door creaked open slightly and a soft whisper floated through the air, a chilling reminder that the house was still alive, still watching, still waiting for its next meal. And as the sun set, painting the sky a deep crimson, it became clear that some doors are better left unopened, for within them lies a darkness that can never be extinguished, a hunger that can never be satisfied, leaving only blood and despair in its wake.